huge difference between vision and purpose, which most organizations kind of miss. In an organizational context, our vision, a good vision, is a picture of our customer's world that's changed and better because we've delivered on our purpose.
Good.
You know, vision is something we see, which is entirely different from purpose. Purpose is something we do. When we build an organization's purpose, it has to be directly related to the problem you are solving. Do not get caught up coming up with a purpose outside of the problem that your organization exists to solve. A purpose is a doing thing. We exist to do something. So the only thing you should exist to do as an organization is solve the problem that you've set out to solve for your customers.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another knowledge bomb episode of Lead to Greatness, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential and together change the world. If this is your first time joining us, please consider subscribing and hit that notification bell and hit that like button. This will be greatly appreciated in helping getting out this content to great leaders and great individuals like yourself. Today on Lead to Greatness, we have Stuart Leo. Stuart is the founder and CEO of Waymaker, an intelligent business management platform that helps leaders build a better business in 30 days. Stuart is a global thinker in strategy, systems, and leadership development. As a founder of Waymaker, he has led the creation of Waymaker's Leadership Curve, a revolutionary way of building clarity, alignment, and remarkable results for any organization. Please help me welcome Stuart with responsive business strategy. Cedric and you're listening to Lead to Greatness.
I grew up in a place called Tasmania, which is a little island off the south of Australia. You've all probably heard of the Tassie Devil,
yes,
that I think Disney made famous.
Yes.
Well, Tasmania is a place that is closer to Antarctica than it is to most of Australia. So it's a unique little island off the south coast of Australia. And to be honest, that's where I grew up. I went to school there, and it's where I had my first taste of entrepreneurialism. And I've always loved business and building things. And when I was a kid, my first job, there was a little tourist golf course down the road from where we were at. And as a kid, I'd jump on my bike, I'd go down there. I saw, these amateur hack golfers knocking all their golf balls into the lakes. And I'm thinking, man, like each of those golf balls are like $2 or $3 down at the golf shop. I wonder if I could kind of pick them out. And I'd see that they would try and get them out, but they couldn't. And so my little 10, 11-year-old entrepreneurial mind was like, I'll go in there. So I went in my board shorts and T-shirt after school, and I'd fish these golf balls out. I'd sell them back to the people on the course or back to the pro shop. And actually, that was my first job. Every day after school, I'd go down, I'd wade into these muddy lakes, I'd find these golf balls, I'd collect 20, 30, 40, and I'd sell them. And man, like I was the man in the neighborhood.
Wow.
I had the latest bike. I was doing well as a 10-year-old, and great taste of little entrepreneurialism for me. And I had a great time.
Wow.
I think once you have a taste of solving a problem and working for yourself, you taste another way. And I grew up and through high school, I had part-time jobs at back at Blockbuster, when Blockbuster still existed.
Yeah. I remember.
You got to go and get a job, and you got to learn how the workforce works, and you got to learn what it's like to turn up to your shift and punch your time clock and do what you got to do. You got to learn those basics. But when you've had this taste of entrepreneurialism and business startup, it's very hard to get that out of your DNA. And so I always had dreams and passions to do my own thing. And so I did my own thing, a little startup with a mate coming out of university. We realized we were young, naive, ignorant. And after about a year, we went, we better go get real jobs. I grew up in corporate life. And then 10, 12 years later, I jumped ship and did my own thing again. But to be honest, I would never have had the confidence to do that if I hadn't had little attempts at it over the years. And one thing leads to another. And I'm a big believer that the business you start is never really the business you run.
Wow.
And Because you get into a business, you see a potential problem, you start to wrestle with that problem. But what you know about the marketplace and that problem is never genuinely enough to go, that's exactly what we're going to do. We've got to get in there. We've got to test. We've got to measure. We've got to do a bit of experimenting. We've got to fail. We've got to win, and we've got to refine. And we talk about that a lot actually in our Waymaker toolkits and that stage of ideation. But you've got to get in there and do that, and that's what unlocks that opportunity. But you've got to, if you don't try and if you don't get in there, then you never actually find the business that is the business to run. I hope that kind of makes sense.
Absolutely. And I like that. You mentioned Waymaker. I want to talk about that. What inspired you to begin this journey and why?
So we were actually, before Waymaker, we were a consulting company. And we were working with lots of different organizations, doing lots of different things, but all those things were centered around growth. And more often than not, an organization would come to us and sit down with them, and they'd say something like, "Oh, we need a new website, or we need a new CRM, or we need a new this or that." And they're all good things. Don't get me wrong. Often we'd go and do them. You'd do the work. You'd run projects, for better, for worse. You run it, and then after a little while, we started to realize we think we're putting band-aids on organizations. We're not actually solving the real problem. And often an organization would come, they would say, "Oh, we need a new website," and you'd say, "Okay, what kind of website?" "Oh, I'm not sure. We like what our competitor over here is doing." "Okay, well, let's talk about the customer journey. What do you need it to do?" "Oh, we're not exactly sure." "Okay, let's step back a little bit." And the more questions we asked, the more we realized that actually the problem behind was really something about, we don't understand our value proposition, or we don't quite understand who we're talking to, or we don't have the right sales methodology. And so they look to the shiny thing, the widget, the website or the CRM or the rebrand, and they'll say, "I want that because that will fix my problem." It's like going shopping and going, "I'm going to go buy a new jacket because I feel bad." But really, you've had a fat month and you've put on an extra 20 pounds because you've been eating burgers every dinner and you want to feel good. It doesn't fix the underlying problem in the organization. And so we developed a tool to bring that awareness to the customer and to help them find their growth gaps. And that was a diagnostic tool. And we started running that with clients, and we got smarter and smarter. And we realized that in 5 to 15 minutes, we could actually surface the issues, have real and objective conversations about those issues, and actually talk about real growth, gaining the clarity and the alignment and the skills and the systems to drive real growth. And that's really where Waymaker started. And from that, we were able to build a tool that could begin to unlock real problems. And that brought real conversations, which brought real action.
Wow. What are some things that go into this process in helping these entrepreneurs and business startups?
There's only two things you've got to invest in to build an organization. And they fall into two broad categories of either skills and people or systems and process. They're the things you've got to build. Everything comes down to those two buckets. You could loosely call that people or process, or skills or systems, as we call it. And you've just got to figure out which skills and which systems you need to build at what stage of your growth journey. And so what do I mean by that? Well, everybody kind of grows. Think about yourself. Everybody grows as a human. You start off as a baby, you become a toddler, you move out of nappies, you become a kid, you get some maturity, you become a teenager, to a young adult, to a hopefully a rational, value-adding citizen and member of your community doing great things. You've matured. Organizations are just like that. And organizations start as little babies, and they have individual skills. Sure, a founder might start and you might be an absolute guru, but that's you. That's not the organization. for a little while, you and the organization are the same thing. But the minute you add another person, now we're an organism, hence the word organization. And your skills need to become their skills, and then they're the organization's skills. Is this making sense? There's a big difference. And so an organization always starts as a baby, even if it's got an expert founding it, because the organization is young, it's immature, it doesn't have the depth. And it's about building that depth, and you've got to build those skills and systems. So that's what we call working on the business versus working in the business. And so you've got to step back and you go, which skills and which systems do I need to build? And that was one of our big breakthrough moments, because whilst we had this tool, which was kind of like, okay, we've found some growth gaps and we can help you, let's go fix your sales methodology or fix your employee journey or whatever it is. We needed an execution framework. We needed a way of going, okay, how do we find the most valuable course of action and execute that once we've got this data and this information at our fingertips? And at the same time we were working on this diagnostic, I came across this story happened to be the British military, but hey, I know I'm talking to Americans, but we're all friends on this side of the pond. And actually, the British military had this amazing breakthrough in leadership and management in the late 80s, 90s, as they moved from the 20th century to the 21st century. How do we develop the highest value course of action on the battlefield was to retrain their leaders into an agile, adaptive, strategic mindset by teaching them to ask 7 questions. And they said, if you just simply ask these 7 questions, you will develop the highest value course of action on the battlefield. You could ask those 7 questions in 30 minutes out on the battlefield, hunkered down in the desert behind some Humvees taking fire or something, and build your battle plan. Or 2, you could ask and answer those 7 questions back at HQ over 2 or 3 days and build a really detailed kind of strategic plan. But it was this agile, adaptive way of thinking. 2, it flattened the organization. It meant that it was a common language that a general could be using, or a lance corporal or a sergeant could be using. And so it flattened the organization. There wasn't this special thing that people at the top did and people at the bottom did. No, we're all in this together. We're all learning how to ask and answer these 7 questions. And the third thing it did is it decentralized decision-making. It put the emphasis of decision-making to the people on the ground. And it meant that the people on the ground who had the latest and the greatest information at their fingertips, were equipped and empowered to develop the best plans, own the best plans, execute the best plans, deliver the result, the win on the battlefield. And I'm like, wow, I'm coming out of corporate life. I remember thinking, wow, if the British military can develop a battle plan with 7 questions, wouldn't it be amazing if you could kind of give that leadership power to a business? I was like, okay, if I want to blow something up on the battlefield, these are great questions. But if I want to build a business up, these questions aren't quite right. And so we took that principle and turned around and said, okay, we've got this diagnostic tool. Could we put the 2 together? Could we help people using this diagnostic tool kind of make it all work together? And could we teach them these small number of questions? What would those questions be? I was like, I'm going to do what the British military did. I'm going to write a small number of questions that if you ask and answer, and you do that consistently, you will develop the highest value course of action for your business.
So what I want you to do, I want you to share some of these questions with us on today. What are some
questions
that we should?
Well, I'll share some of them, and really they're not that complicated. And you can get these questions by going to waymaker.io. Just go to waymaker.io. At the top of the website, there'll be a navigation item called Learn. Click on Learn. Second or third one down would be Waymaker's Leadership Curve. Click on that and it'll teach you the 7 questions. They're really simple. They take you around 7 areas. The first 6 questions are about developing clarity and alignment in vision, market focus, strategy, business model, customer experience, and employee experience.
Wow.
And that's a holistic view of the business. Question 1, when we hit up vision, is what is our vision? Is it driven by our purpose? And what are the roadblocks holding us back? That's it. But you ask yourself that question, and honestly ask yourself that question. What is our vision? Is it driven by our purpose? And what are the roadblocks holding us back? And you'll realize that actually that simple question of only 10 or 12, 15 words is going to force you to say, do I have clarity of vision?
I see.
And if there's more than one of you in the organization, you're then going to go, well, do I have alignment of vision? Not just clarity, but does, the person next to me also have that same clarity? Are we aligned in this? And there's a little bit of depth to the questions. I'll just dwell on question one, if you like, and just pull it apart.
Absolutely.
Huge difference between vision and purpose, which most organizations kind of miss. In an organizational context, our vision, a good vision, is a picture of our customer's world that's changed and better because we've delivered on our purpose.
That's good.
Vision is something we see, which is entirely different from purpose. Purpose is something we do. A purpose is built on a problem. When we build an organization's purpose, it has to be directly related to the problem you are solving. Do not get caught up coming up with a purpose outside of the problem that your organization exists to solve. A purpose is a doing thing. We exist to do something. So the only thing you should exist to do as an organization is solve the problem that you've set out to solve for your customers.
Yes.
When you exist to do something other than solving the problem that you've identified to solve for your customer, then you are off purpose, off focus. And too often we let this kind of vague idea of purpose get in the way of actually doing the task at hand. And so when we focus clearly and accurately on solving the problem for our customer, that becomes our purpose. We exist to, that's a purpose statement. We exist to do X. When we focus on that, the doing becomes a daily doing. And this is the big difference between vision and purpose. Purpose, we should do daily. Vision should be something in the future that we're striving to reach. And so
basically it's like vision is what you see. Purpose is what you're doing to get to what you're seeing.
Amen. You've got it in one. That's right. It is no more complicated than that. And
I want to pause right here. I want you to continue, but lead to greatness, because here's the thing. When we're dealing with business, I mean, a lot of times we get them confused. We get vision and purpose confused, and people get wrapped around with these big 5-page vision statements and all these things, all this clutter that makes things more confusing than ever. And you just made it so simple for each and every one of us to reconsider, to go back to the drawing boards and reconsider today. You know what? What do I see? What do I see for the future? And what are we going to do for that vision to come to fruition, for it to come to life? I just want to say that. Go ahead.
That's great. I love it. I'll give you an example. Today they're called Meta, but we know them as Facebook. And really, whether you love or hate the business model, it's been successful. When Facebook sets out its vision, they say our vision is to connect the world. We exist to connect people together, and we're going to do that through sharing photos and chat and video. Now, you see how simple this purpose and this vision statement is. We exist to connect people. Our vision is to connect the world. That's simple. You can build one of the world's most valuable companies with really clear but simple vision and purpose statements. And so a couple of years ago, they had some exciting moments. On a Monday morning, I think it was in 2018 or 2019, I can't remember, they celebrated 1 billion people logging into Facebook on a Monday morning. And here's why they celebrated it, because it was a vision moment. Their vision was to connect the world. At that moment, they had just connected 1/7 of the world.
Amazing.
Why? Because they made it their daily task to create the tools to connect people better than anybody else. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Every day they'd come in and go, we exist to connect people through this particular way, that we're just going to get better at doing that. We're going to solve that problem. 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 We're going to get better. And wow, wake up 10, 15 years later going, we just connected 1/7 of the world. And it was only a year later that they celebrated 2 billion.
Wow.
so,
Oh, man.
so it's so simple when we have clarity. And clarity is that first ingredient to organizational transformation. So the 7 questions at their surface level are really simple. What is our vision? Is it driven by our purpose? What's holding us back from getting there? Clarity of vision, clarity of purpose, clarity of what's in our way.
I love it. That is a load of knowledge bomb. Stuart, this is amazing. This is amazing. The reason why it's so amazing to me, because it's so simple. The way you just explain it is explained in a way for someone that's 8 years old. An 8-year-old gets Facebook purpose, gets Facebook vision. Man, I think one of the biggest things with us in our organizations is making our vision so clear and so simple where a kid can understand it. And if a kid can understand it, I believe that a group of grown people will be able to take the same vision and make something great. I mean, you look back at Facebook, and I'm glad you used Facebook, which new Meta. I'm glad you used the company, because it's a great example of how simplicity, what it can do for an organization.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there, Cedric. I love how you put that. Our job as leaders is to work on our organizations until they become so simple that it doesn't matter, who we bring and who wants to get around and share that vision and share that purpose, that they can get involved, that we can find a place. Because our job as leaders is to cast the vision, is to set the purpose, is to lay down the groundwork, to draw people around us, to get others involved. And if it's too hard, if it's too complicated, then we're not being good leaders, because we're not taking people from A to B. We're not gathering people and taking them somewhere, which is why, if you're out there, kicking off a new business or doing your own startup right now, wrestle with that problem, and wrestle with that purpose, and wrestle with that vision. You grab it and you don't let hold of it. You just keep going with it until you find that breakthrough, and you keep asking those hard questions, because as you ask those hard questions, you chip away, you reveal, you find, and you will make a way.
Stuart, those are a load of knowledge bombs. Wow, this is so amazing. And so we're talking about vision. I want to shift over a little bit from vision to strategy, because now you have vision. Why is strategy so confusing to a regular business, and how can they become strategic leaders?
Okay, well, you've just opened a big box of stuff there.
Let's go.
All right.
I had a seatbelt. I put it on. Let's go.
Let's define our terms. If you Google strategy, it's going to say something that's actually very misleading. It's going to say something like, strategy is a collection of actions. And that's not untrue. It's just not the truth when it comes to organizational leadership. One of my heroes, one of the great thinkers on strategy, a guy called Michael Porter from Harvard University, he nails it when he goes, strategy is not actions. Strategy is a position in the marketplace that you find, you hold, you pursue. So strategy is a position, not a collection of actions. Actions are actions. Goals drive actions. Strategy is a position in the marketplace that you find, you pursue, you hold, and that's your strategy. Now, there's some big complex terms here. Can we go here? Is this all right?
Let's go.
All right. So I want you to think of actions as an action plan, as a set of goals. That's not a strategy. A strategy is a reason why your customers either A, want to buy you, and B, why your competitors can't beat you. It's a position. And so when we think about strategy, we've got to define our position. We've got to think about what position in my local market or the global market or in the mind of the customer. It's actually psychology. Positioning is psychology. And so let's use some practical examples. Give me a business that I would know and your listeners would know. Actually, Walmart. Perfect. Walmart's a perfect example. Okay. Why do you go to Walmart?
I go to Walmart because it have everything, one stop, one shop.
There you go. You've just said it in one. Their position in market is to be the place where you can get whatever you want. And we could probably add to that
Yeah.
Are they expensive to shop there, or is it generally pretty cheap?
Genuinely pretty cheap.
Yeah. So we could say Walmart's position in market is to go and get whatever you want at the best possible everyday affordable prices.
Oh man. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a great position in market. We are the place where you want to go to get whatever you want for your everyday living at the best possible price. You know, what have they got to do in their business to defend that position from other people who want to have that position in market?
Yeah.
Is they've actually got to have everything that you would ever want.
Mm.
You know, they can't have a little store, can they? They've got to have a big store.
Yeah.
So they've got to make sure that, you know, when you go to Walmart, you know, you don't go to a little kiosk on the main street, do you? You drive out into the suburbs typically, and there's this big, massive
Money.
warehouse. And because if they break that promise of that position, would you go back?
No.
Okay. So what they've got to do is they've got to build some skills and some systems that mean that every time you go there, they're going to have what you want. So they're going to do a few things. One, they're going to design a shop that can house everything that you'd ever want. So it's going to be big. Second thing is they're going to have some amazing inventory management, because if they're going to have everything that you want, they're going to build some systems to manage all that stuff. And you know what? If 1,000 people want everything they want all at once, my goodness, like they could have some run on stock. They could, you know, so they're gonna have this amazing inventory management systems, and so they're gonna have to invest in that. They're gonna have to build computer software, and they're gonna have to build stuff that manages inventory better than their competitors. And the next thing they're gonna have to do is they're gonna have to understand what people want, because what people want happens to change over time. Hey, today I want, you know, sneakers with LeBron on them. Tomorrow I want it with, you know, whoever the next up and coming. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So they've actually got to invest in research.
Yeah.
They're going to invest in a certain type of customer. So they're going to start to build a set of core capabilities going, okay, we've got to be really good at this. It's kind of like a military going, hey, we've got to be good at air, we've got to be good at sea, we've got to be good at land, we've got to be good at intelligence and spying. We've got to build up these capabilities. And that's what we call competitive advantages in business. And when you've got to choose 6 or 7 things that you want to invest in and you want to be the best in the world in, so and it's what Warren Buffett calls a moat around a business. He would look at Walmart and he would go, they've got a big moat. Why have they got a big moat? You know what I mean when I say a moat, like a castle, and it has a lake around the castle in medieval times.
Yeah.
He would look at that business and he'd go, do I want to go and create another Walmart? Heck no. Why? Because I've got to spend billions of dollars on inventory management systems, billions of dollars on research, billions of dollars on real estate, and putting these massive warehouses all around the country. The cost to compete is just, it's too much. I'll go and run another business. And what does Walmart do? It just holds its position. Is this making sense?
This makes a lot of sense. And I'm listening to you. You have Walmart, and then it makes a lot of sense how Amazon formed after that, because I'm like, man, Jeff Bezos knew he couldn't compete to what Walmart was doing. At the time, Walmart wasn't online. And now here's the thing, I'm thinking about it. Now Walmart has started the online, trying to keep up with Amazon. And
that is exactly why strategy is not about action, but about psychology. Because when I say to you, what comes to mind? What store do you go to buy something online to get anything you'd ever want? Amazon. That's right. But when I say to you, hey, what store do you go to that you're going to drive to get anything that you ever want? What comes to mind? Walmart. Strategy is first psychological, second actions. This is where so many startups and organizations, they lose their way because they think strategy is about hustle and about action. No, man, strategy is about finding the best and the biggest hill that your customers want, and you go and stand on it, and then you build the defenses to defend that hill. And that is strategy. Strategy is the art of positioning, understanding what your customers want and why, and the value you bring to them. And then you build the systems and the skills, which are your competencies and capabilities, to hold that position. And get that position wrong and you got the wrong strategy. Get that position right and you can grow that strategy from, a couple of people on a desk back in the 90s called Amazon to one of the world's most valuable companies. And that's the power of strategy. It's psychological first, action second.
Stuart, those are a load of knowledge bumps. While you're dropping some knowledge on us, and I'm telling you, I promise you, I want to dig so much deeper into this conversation. But I have to do this. And you mentioned something, Stuart, and I'm like, man, this is so important. But I know we can't get to this on today. And that's what you talked about, where the skills and systems come into place. Because if you're building an empire like this, you're going to need the skills for the people, and you're going to need the system to create the process, like you mentioned early on. And all of it is coming together and it makes sense. And here's my thing on this podcast, as far as creating systems and creating skills, it's no way that you will be able to do that with all these different listeners and with different situations, different facets, different areas, different finances in their career, in their business. As a new client, what can someone expect from you and your team?
We're a technology company. We provide the software. We actually certify and train Waymaker advisors and consultants around the world through Waymaker Academy. And so everything I've been talking about comes straight out of Waymaker Academy. Any user of Waymaker has free access to Waymaker Academy. And so we have a 30-day free trial on waymaker.io. And if you want to put your business through the first diagnostic, go for it. Jump on, create a free trial, go through the diagnostic. If you don't have a coach or a consultant, reach out to us via the support desk. We'll find somebody. We're young, we're very young, and so we have a small but growing community of coaches, consultants in America, United Kingdom, Ireland, Australia. We'll find somebody that can help you, and they will guide you through this journey of developing the clarity, the alignment, and therefore the results that will come from a focused business. So jump on, you get a 30-day free trial, gives you access to Waymaker Academy. You can get into the strategy questions. You can download our toolkits and canvases. You can get the stuff on Vision. It's all there for the taking. That's what you can expect. Waymaker is the software platform that helps you diagnose, plan, and deliver 3 goals. And the Academy to help you learn and grow. The advisor community to help support you. And the methodology of the 7 questions. We would just love to give that to you for 30 days, see how you go.
Stuart, this is such an amazing interview. Great for us to get connected with you and what you're doing with your organization. It is so amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. On behalf of the Lead to Greatness community, we want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule and adding value to us all.
Cedric, it's absolute pleasure to be with you. Thank you for having me.
And don't forget to subscribe to Lead to Greatness if this is your first time. And if this podcast was helpful to you, leave a big thumbs up. And also, I want you to check out our Marriage Coach podcast, the podcast with my wife and I. If you're on iTunes, please rate this podcast and leave a review and help get the word out. Again, thank you, Lead to Greatness Nation, for joining us on today. Looking forward to seeing you again on next week. Till then, remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace. We out.